I'm back down at Southampton boat show site the day after the show closed. Specifically, I'm here with Sunseeker with one important job to do, and that is to get the all-new 65 Sport Yacht from here to its base in Poole. We're going to go to the Isle of Wight, pick up our photographer, and then we're going to do the full MBY sea trial and test as we get this thing here at the show where it's been for the last week, back to base at Poole Quay. And you're going to come along for the ride.
The 65 Sport Yacht is an all-new design that has also spawned the Predator 65, a sports cruiser version that shares the hull design and interior layout. But it's the sports bridge element that makes this version so special, specifically the upper helm design. More on that later. It may be called a 65, but the boat is actually 67 foot 2 inches long, with a beam of 16 foot 8 inches. Its displacement is just shy of 38 tonnes, and engine options are both IPS, either 1350 or 1200, and the starting price is a whisker short of £2.5 million, including VAT. Our test boat, however, with the bigger engines and nearly every box on the options list ticked, came in at 3.09 million, VAT included. Those are the numbers then, and with our photographer now in tow, it was time to get behind the wheel and see what the 65 Sport Yacht could do.
The lower helm is a really nice mix of style and function. It looks really good. You've got this sort of carbon fibre inlay, you've got the nice use of wood here, really high class vents. Everything looks and feels high quality, and there's a great mix of sort of MFDs as you'd expect, really nicely presented on this pod here. And then you've got these analog style dials, but they've got digital inlays so that you can present all sorts of different information through them. They're really useful in terms of their functionality, but they look great, really suit the style of the boat as well. And sat back in this seat, you may feel like you're a bit of a long way from those screens, but there is a pad down here, so you have control of the two MFDs from here in your seat. And though these seats don't bolster, there is space to stand here if you want to stand at this helm, but the best thing to do is sit down. They're electronic, so you can slide in, get nice and close to the dash, get comfy, and because you have that pad there and you have a sort of BMW iDrive style control for those instruments, you've got everything here at your fingertips. And one of the benefits of the sports bridge layout is how much glass there is around here. I've got a sunroof overhead, I've got a window here that goes up and down, got this massive one-piece windscreen, which despite being the size it is and being one piece, doesn't have huge mullions down either side. And this window extends a long way forward, so there are very few blind spots even coming from your starboard side. This is a fantastic helm position, but it is not by a long way the best place to drive this boat from. This is where you want to drive this boat from. This one's got IPS 1350s, and that means you've got plenty of poke. And it's difficult to explain quite how special it feels to drive a boat of this size in this position. I've got my legs out in front of me, I've got the wheel on my chest. It's like being sat in a sports car. These fantastic Bezanzoni seats, they're really supportive. You're low slung, you're close to the deck, but the view is fantastic. I've been in this seat for 3 or 4 hours today, and not once have I felt the need to stand up. I've never sat lower on a flybridge and had such a good view. Your all-round visibility is absolutely fantastic, and it just feels so special to be driving a boat of this size sitting like this. It just makes so much sense. I don't know why no one's done it before. And you saw when I arrived, I pulled this down to me. The reason this does this is not just for access to get it in and out of the seat easily. When you have it upright, it means you can stand and use the IPS joystick. So if you're close quarters manoeuvring, you can see the very front of the boat and the very back of the boat all stood up from the flybridge. It's such a clever idea. And in fact, everything about this area just works so well. This sort of aircraft style console in between me here, where I've got my control for the MFD. You've got those two analog digital dials again. They look even better up here. They absolutely suit this helm station down to the ground, but it's all just a reach away. The throttle's right there. I've got phone charging here, 2 big cup holders. It's so nice not having the dash arranged flat ahead of you. This just feels like the way it should have always been done. So you've got this fantastic figure hugging seat, feet out in front of you. Then when you turn, it feels incredible. She's so responsive. But the nice thing is, with the wheel, things feel kind of measured. But of course, you can now drive the boat at speed with the IPS joystick. So if I activate the joystick, that's almost like putting the boat in sport mode. Everything tightens up. The reactions are even faster. So now if I hit the joystick hard to port, over she goes. And the lean, it's incredible. To be able to do this with a boat of this size using your forefinger and thumb, I mean, I've just never driven anything like it. And with these IPS 1350s, that's 1,000 horsepower per side. She'll top out at 35 knots. And we're now cruising at 25, no problem. Okay, you haven't got a proper windscreen here, so there's a fair bit of windage you can probably hear. But today, on a warm day, it just doesn't matter. I love how in touch with the elements you are. And as good as that joystick is, I quite like just using the steering wheel. You feel so connected to the boat. It is the most brilliant driving experience. Genuine fresh thinking from Sunseeker. It's not a gimmick. At a boat show you might think, oh, that's a nice trick. But in practice, it works brilliantly, way better than I could have imagined. What's nice about this thing, yes, it's super sporty and sort of aggressive looking from the outside, but it's got really good cruising potential as well. You've got a seakeeper on board, so if you want to cruise your displacement speed, it's perfectly comfortable. And if you're doing sort of 8 to 10 knots, you've got a range of 700 nautical miles. But if you bury the throttles, that 2,000 horsepower kicks in, and we're up at 25 knots already. That's 30 knots. You'll top out somewhere in the region of 35 knots. It's a proper driving experience. And actually, it's far more relaxing just to drop her back to 25 knots, 2,000 RPM, and that just feels like walking pace. This is the speed at which we crossed over from Southampton today, and the boat just hoovered up the journey. It passed in no time. Okay, it's not particularly rough today. It does feel very solid though when you do cross the wash of other boats. But for these sort of long journeys in good weather, there are a few places I'd rather be than up here. It just feels sensational. It makes such an occasion of driving the boat. Lower helms have gotten so good on flybridge boats these days that this gives you a reason to come up here and drive with the wind in your hair and the sun on your face. It's totally intoxicating. So it's here, in close quarters, where the brilliance of this design really becomes apparent, because we're going to come alongside now, so you can move this into the upright position, stand up, activate the joystick, and then I've got this fantastic standing position where I've got control of the joystick. I've also got the bow thruster on this side, and then if we're coming in port side too, like we are now, I've got a great view of the bow. I can look right down this side and I can see the very end of the bathing platform, and I can see the port side deck, so you can really check your proximity to what it is you're coming alongside. Now if you were just stuck in that sat position, there's no way you'd want to berth the boat from up here, but because you can get it into this position, it feels perfectly comfortable. And of course you can use the helm station downstairs, you can have a third station down in the cockpit as well. But this just works so well, you feel like you have really good control of the boat and you've got great sight lines all round. Now of course, away from that amazing upper helm station, there's lots to enjoy aboard the 65 Sport Yacht. We'll start back here at the transom. You have a high-low bathing platform and it actually slides down into the water, revealing some steps, and you have some clip-in rails as well, which sort of help you down onto the platform, a beach club style. This opens up to show a massive great cavernous area where you can store a Williams 345. There's also space for a C-bob on the starboard side with a charging point, and as an option you can actually have a shower fitted in the underside of this garage lid with some lighting in it as well, so it's a really nice place to get out of the water and have a shower. You also have a pull-out shower down here. If you want a quick wash off, come out the sea, wash off, there's one down there. And there's some really cool design detailing back here. These sort of C-shaped motifs here, we're going to see more and more of them. They're sort of speak automotive exhaust style things, but we're going to see them throughout Sunseeker's range. I like the fact you've got the Sport Yacht light up badge over here. You've got them down both sides, and you've also got a light up Sunseeker emblem at the top there on the back of the hardtop, which works really nicely. And I love the way that this artificial teak sort of flows down the steps here. It's a really, really cool effect. And you have the passerelle which pops out of this little letterbox here, but it's a really inviting transom. It sort of draws you up into the cockpit, so we'll have a look up there, shall we? Now, if you were to play a drinking game where you drank every time I mentioned detailing on this boat, well, you'd probably fall off your chair by the end of the video. But there is good detail all over the place, both fanciful and also practical. Little things like the fact you've got the 65 emblem in stainless steel on top of this rope locker where you can tidy away the rope ends. These lovely new style stainless steel doors are really, really hefty, chunky, and just look at this hinge here. This is where you lift up for the tender garage. It's all really, really beautifully done. And then you're in here to the cockpit, where obviously it's dominated by this big sweep of seating. You can have some different arrangements here. You can have a Manhattan style layout where you have a couple of bar stools in front of the bar here. I personally really like this layout. I think it works really well because I love this seat here. Tucked away in this corner, you've got some protection here. Whether the boat's moving along or not, it means the wind's not going to whistle down and give you a chill. That'll be a really nice spot to sit. And of course it's shared with a proper sun pad out the back there. This table, quite big as it is, and you've got a handhold and cup holders exposed, but obviously flip that over. That is a lovely, lovely piece of wood, and it's twice its size. You can have a couple of directors' chairs down here as well, so you've got a bit more space for people to dine. Down here, again, this is not wasted space. It's an odd shape, it's a triangular locker, but it's a perfect place to chuck everyone's shoes when they get on board. And then I love the way the steps are sort of half integrated into this console, and then they sort of float as you get up to the flybridge. Works really nicely. And this is something that Sunseeker have been doing for a long time. You've got this drop down window here, so push this button, you can see the glass comes up, and obviously that will go all the way up there and seal that area off. But if you have it down like this, it opens up, and as I said, you can have a bar area here if you have a different layout of the seating, but again, it just opens up the galley so it can serve this area really easily. And then you have two sliding doors that go over the starboard side. Completely flat threshold here. There's nothing to step over as you walk into the saloon. You've just got some deck drains here so water can't actually get into the saloon itself. And this is a really, really lovely space. Again, detailing, stainless steel insets here, this pattern here on the top of the counter, the way that on this side the wood sort of melds into the corian, looks really, really smart. And these look and feel great. This is your refrigeration. You haven't got domestic size fridge freezer on this boat, but you have got twin fridges here. You've also got more refrigeration downstairs on this boat, which we'll have a bit of a look at later on. And then you're into the heart of the galley here, and it works really well. If you can use it at sea, you can wedge yourself in. And I said, you know, it's fanciful, it's also practical. You've got proper fiddled storage for everything here, including your teapot and your salt and pepper shakers. A bit more on this side. You've got proper storage here for cutlery, all in its own slots. And on this side, these pop-out cupboards, you've got all the boat's glassware, Miele cooking, induction hob, and this is a nice touch. Where are the sockets in this area? They're hidden. Little pop-up area there, you've got a pair of sockets, and you can hide them away if you're not using them. Really smart stuff. And this saloon, well, the glass looks amazing from the outside. The effect on the inside is absolutely wonderful. And again, detail. This handhold just sort of springs out of this area here. Again, this is a handhold. It's subtle, but it works really, really nicely. And this is just a big sociable heart of the inside of the boat, where you can really get the best of these massive, great windows. And just look how far these windows next to the helm stretch forward. And of course, you've also got sunroof overhead, so the natural light in here is really, really impressive. Table goes up and down automatically, so you can make it into a coffee table if you want. But if you want to dine, this is a great mechanism. It opens up like that, and then it just slides across That's it. No pulling out leaves, anything like that. It's a really, really simple table to make bigger and smaller. All can be done with one hand. Love that. Really, really cool. But one thing to point out down here is that you have full control of all the boat systems from the CMate screen. So everything, lighting, tanks, generator, shore power, bilge pumps, it's all shown through that screen there, all in one place, all under your fingertips. It's a really slick interface as well. Works really nicely. When you bear in mind that this is a full production boat, there's an impressive amount of customization you can make to this lower deck layout. And we talk about this particular boat, this is a 3-cabin layout. Here you've got a twin cabin which has got access to its own ensuite, and then forward you have the VIP, which we'll go and have a closer look at. Master suite is amidships, and here on the port hand side you have a day heads, which is quite a sort of luxurious touch considering every single cabin has got its own bathroom. The fact you've got a dedicated day head with just a loo for guests to use in the day is quite a nice added touch. But really the variety comes for the master cabin. You can probably best see what I'm talking about coming in from this angle. So at the moment this is like the extended galley. You've got ice maker down here, wine fridge, bit more storage. Over here you've got access to your washer dryer. But if you have the Grand Master, this doorway goes and the doorway is here. So all of this is now master cabin, or if you want the 4th cabin, you have a bulkhead here and you've got your bunk in there. But for Grand Master, this all opens up, you have your bureau and you have your study. But even if you don't have the Grand Master, great name, this is still a pretty special master cabin. Loads of headroom, completely flat floor, very easy to get around what is a very big and low set bed. Obviously you've got huge windows on either sides. That's sort of par for the course these days, but these are particularly large and they've got big opening ports inside them. Detail, there's that word again, have a drink. There's detail absolutely everywhere. This motif follows you all the way throughout the boat. It's in the VIP, it's in the master. I love all the strip lighting and the spotlights overhead. I like the fact that you've got these leather trays next to the bed and they've got built-in wireless charging for a mobile phone. Yeah, they've really gone to town on the detailing on this thing. Even down to the doors here, just these inset strips of stainless steel. Don't need to be there, but they just elevate everything. And everything looks and feels such high quality. Obviously you've got a ensuite to this cabin too. Great storage as well. Both sides, you've got a big hanging locker here. You've got one behind the door. And over on this side, this has got a breakfast dinette on this boat, but you could have more storage that mirrors this side on that side if you'd prefer. Right forward, you have the VIP cabin. Now this stays as is no matter what you do with the rest of the layout. It's a really good space, headroom plentiful, nice big bed that's got the gradual steps up so it's easy to get in and out. And this has got the same wireless charging built into the trays either side as the master cabin. In fact, obviously finished to exactly the same standard, and there's that motif again, follows you all the way through the boat. There's some nice storage down either side, lined with stainless steel, and there are proper plugs as well. If you haven't got a phone that can charge wirelessly, then there's space to plug in cable chargers down there. Big television in here as well for a VIP cabin. There's a little bureau down here, somewhere to get ready, do makeup, and you've got more storage. Big hanging locker on this side, and of course this cabin has its own ensuite. Really comfortable guest cabin this. And the crew cabin on this boat is optional, but most seem to be selected with it, and this is access. You can get in like this if you wish. However, the functionality of this ladder means that you can pop these pins and this lifts right up and out the way. And not only does that make access to the crew cabin better, but it means if you've got kids on board, you can put the ladder up and then they can't get up to the top deck. There is a hatch up there, a proper door, but that's just an extra bit of functionality of that ladder, which is really nice. And that means that you've got completely unencumbered access down this ladder into the crew cabin. Now, given this area is sandwiched between a tender garage, an engine room and 4 other cabins on a 65-foot boat, I think this is quite an impressive crew space. Okay, it's not enormous, but headroom is pretty amazing, really. You've got a single berth here, you've got a sink behind me. There's no shower in here, so crew are either going to shower off the back, I suppose, or use facilities shoreside, but they have got a toilet in here. They've also got control of their air conditioning in here, a couple of plug sockets for charging. It's not enormous, but actually it's comfortable enough. They've got a window there, a bit of ventilation, and actually they've got a repeater here for the Seakeeper screen, so they can keep an eye on and control the stabiliser from down here in this cabin. Let's move on to the side decks. And one nice thing to note is that you have a boarding gate here in the top side. You're not always going to be going stern to, so it's nice to have this gate here so you can step straight onto a quay side from either side of the boat. Quite popular in the United States they are. And then you move on to the deck itself, and what you notice actually is that the lines of the boat, it's a sleek boat, these railings are quite low. However, there's a really, really tall tow rail, particularly tall here, but even as you get further forward, there's still a good tow rail there. So your feet are well protected. It doesn't feel like you're gonna slip on these side decks. And they're a good width as well. So you can walk, like this really comfortably. You're not having to sort of shuffle down. So a decent enough size. The other thing to note is you haven't got a cable running through these middle railings either. That's a proper solid piece of stainless steel. It's really, again, nice attention to detail. Now, with the flybridge being a bit smaller than a traditional 65-foot flybridge, this foredeck area comes into play a bit more, I would imagine. And it's a nice layout. You've got your sofa here so you can sit facing forward when the boat's going along at slow speed. You've got pop-up backrests here on this sun pad so you can sit a bit more comfortably if you don't want to lie completely flat. Cup holders built into the upholstery, which works really nicely. And they've got a charging point for a mobile phone up there. It's a Scanstrap one that charges it and also holds it firmly in place. A couple of storage bins on either side, perfect for chucking lines or covers in. And one interesting detail is that you have this one piece of moulding, this black moulding here, runs all the way down the side of the boat right to the stern. It's really, really impressive bit of engineering. However, it does mean that you have to step over it to get into this Portuguese bridge area. Other manufacturers may either leave a gap or have a gate. Sunseeker haven't done that because clearly they want that nice clean line from bow to stern, which it does provide, but it's just something to note. You do have to step over into this area if you want to get from deck to deck. And there is more to the flybridge than just this amazing driving position, because you have got a sun pad up here, and what's nice is that you can see the backrests are up here, but you can do the same on this side. So if the sun's over there, you can sit facing it that way. In fact, if you don't want sunbathing space up here, you can have L-shaped seating and a little table. Of course, the trade-off for this being a sports bridge is it doesn't have as big a flybridge as a traditional 60-foot flybridge boat, but that just comes with the territory. There's a bit of flexibility up here, and really, it's a place to drive the boat from. So access to the engine room is through this hatch on the port side deck, just aft of the transom gate. And something that sort of comes with the territory when you have a tender garage is that you don't have a huge amount of space over these engines. As you say, there isn't a massive amount of clearance here. It actually does drop down between the engines, so if you need to get between them and to the pods, then it's okay, but if you're rolling around out at sea, it would be a bit cramped in here. But if you need to do major work, then you can take the floor of the tender garage out. If you need to take an engine out for whatever reason, then that is how you would do it. But actually, it's a really nicely laid out engine room. You've got your seakeeper and really good access to the generator forward. Obviously, fuel tanks on both sides. It's really well lit as well. But yeah, just not a huge amount of clearance over these engines. So there you have it. That's the Sunseeker Sport Yacht 65. And in a very, very impressive range, this boat really does stand out a mile. I'd wager it's one of the best boats that Sunseeker currently builds. I do hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like if you did. And remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time we upload a new video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.